This is a brand new platform for us. So those of you who have been to PTC before, we have so much thought leadership happening at the conference, and we have so many incredible CEOs and C-suite executives that we needed literally another stay. And so the idea and the term Alaka'i, just for quick education, it's a term in a blind that means to lead and to direct. And that was the focus of this new stay. And we've been very fortunate enough that you are part of the first one. And we have three terrific CEOs who are going to be joining us on a very relevant topic in our industry right now. So to get things started and to paint the picture here, we're going to talk about the cloud and enterprise colo markets continuing their growth. As many of you in the room know, AI is obviously the most popular topic right now in digital infra and everything falling underneath it. But what you've made following in sub-headlines is the traditional air-cooled and high-margin cloud enterprise colocation markets continue to expand steadily. A report by Fidelity recently said that data center colocation market is projected to grow from $48 billion US in 2024 to $204 billion by 2030, and then $339 billion by 2035. And so we can talk about AI and potential there, but obviously it's like huge market that's happening sort of behind the scenes right now. And so to lead us in today's discussion, again, we have Bjorn, Bruno, and Mayank, leaders within their own organizations who are working on major projects such as these in these current times. So starting off, Mayank, we're going to start off with you, pick your brain a little bit. So we talked about past 18 months, things are obviously growing steadily, kind of behind the scenes right now. From your perspective, what's the underlying demand drivers right now sustaining this momentum that we heard from reports like Fidelity? And how do you see these segments evolving as we look at 2026 and 2027?
So I think the main driver for this demand is the cost of solving the problem. So we'll take a step back. Photography used to be a problem which was solved using chemistry. Today, you have photography being solved using math. And this sort of transposes itself, this analogy transposes itself to a variety of. So as long as you're moving increasing number of problems to be solved by math, and as long as you are reducing the cost of solving that problem using math, this demand will continue to grow.
Oh, now it's working. A little bit of an echo there. Bruno, for operators built around traditional colo markets and models, what do you see as the most realistic way to start supporting GPUs and higher density deployments without putting existing margins at risk?
Now, it's great to be here and to pioneer the stage environment. I think the opportunity for colo players has already evolved. I think we've been doing traditional colo, but for us, we've been already doing GPU work with a lot of our customers. AI deployments across our footprint. You know, we have quite a large footprint, 12 countries. And the demand and growth is not homogeneous. It's different markets, different solutions. I will say that the gigawatt campuses is not for everybody. And it's not for every location. And that needs to be understood. Every geography is not ready to accept gigawatt campuses. And we as colo players provide that important bridge between what is needed for colocation traditional, which is still growing, as Brian put it, exceptionally, exponentially. It's not going anywhere. You know, AI is the story for the last 18 months, 24 months, and it's been frenetic growth. But cloud has been consistently growing at, across all our markets, 20 plus, 30% CAGR every year. And that's huge by any standard. So the AI has just put it into a different level to challenge all of us as the providers, the colo providers, that you need to get your act together. How do you deliver both workloads? How do you decide which workload to go first? Whether you, in some markets, move quickly to the AI 100 megawatt type campuses, or you take your time and you adjust where the demand surfaces, that's when you put your capacity to work. And that's going to be the critical bridge. And I'll say that bridge is so important to try to understand. Our customers also depend on us to understand that, because the customers also don't want the problem to deal with. They just want the capacity at the right time, right place, and as cheaply as possible. It's not easy to do that across this kind of footprint. Maybe I'll just step to your next question.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bjorn, Borealis data centers, for those of you who aren't aware, based in Iceland. And we talk about, as Bruno mentioned, not every project and, there's a fit, right, for every market you're entering. Iceland, very interesting, but feels like it's starting to get on people's radars now as a location to look into seriously. But you've obviously been there. So in terms of smaller operators, feeling the pressure of capital costs, supply chains, et cetera, delays, from your perspective, what upgrades, partnerships are delivering the best ROI for staying competitive as density requirements rise?
Yeah, I think that depends a little bit on where you are in the value chain. I mean, are you doing network services? Are you providing for the compute? But from the data center side, if you're providing data center services, I think to your point on location in Iceland, I mean, location matters drastically. As you see the density grow and the capacity of each site going up, it's really important to have a partner that is located in an area where there is access to power, where you can see the growth, especially if your needs are to grow in a single location. I think also as the sort of scale goes up, it's important to focus on simplicity and have strong partnerships. Fewer partnerships means smaller complexity, allows you to operate in a more controlled manner. So we've been focused as an operator on building these partnerships where we have a good understanding on supply chain timelines. We can call people that we know to figure out where components are stuck and potentially expedite them. So I think putting focus and effort there is key.
Great. I'm going to stay with you, Bjorn, as we talk about another theme that's very well related to our current topic, but sustainability. And again, focusing on Iceland. Renewable, clean, carbon-free energy, obviously all checks off the boxes in Iceland. In sustainability expectations rising quickly, and obviously we're all talking about that too, how are metrics like power usage effectiveness, PUEs, and renewable sourcing influencing your plans for mid-density versus high-density facilities? How does that play a factor for you?
I would say, if anything, it's becoming more important because the scale is growing so fast that if you have a bad PUE, it hurts so much more. So the impact of the metric becomes more drastic. And again, I go back to the location. I mean, there being able to operate in regions that lower your operating costs, lower the PUE, all of these things are tremendously helpful for that. So I would put emphasis on that.
Bruno, I think we would be amiss or get in trouble if we don't talk about AI a little bit.
Sure.
So I'm going to pass this question to you. So AI-driven campuses soak up, soak up massive amounts of power and land. What's the strongest advantage, strategic advantage in your point of view for regional enterprise-focused data centers?
I think, following from the theme of my last comments around the gigawatt campus is not for everybody, but I think every government, every country wants to have digital independence. They want to be on this AI bandwagon. Everyone has announced, every one of our geographies that we operate, for example, has announced some kind of national AI strategy that they want to embrace and they want to get ready for. So you have to get ready to support that. Now, what's the challenge? The grids are all antiquated. They're all behind the curve. It's not ready to absorb the kind of power that's required in a lot of these countries. Even the more developed countries are struggling. So what do we need to do as the traditional colo players to try to bridge that gap? Following from that is to really develop upon what is needed to gradually move to these campuses. Big gigawatt campuses announcing 200, 300, 500 megawatt stuff is great, but you need to get the first data center up that has the power to deliver. So yes, we have delivered AI campuses, but it's a journey. You need to start, secure the power for the 100, 200, 300 megawatt campus, which is very, very hard in a lot of these markets. But you need to then work closely with the regulators, etc., and the government to see what you can deliver immediately, medium term, and long term. Because your customers' requirements are also going to evolve gradually over time. They all want to have security of that big requirement, but they want to see it being delivered quickly over time. But you can't do that all in one go. And as you would in some of the campuses in the US, for example, or even parts of Europe. This is the challenge we face to bridge that gap. And that the regulators need to work out, and we need to help them work this out, right? Because they want data sovereignty, but there's not enough power. So how do we find that bridge? We need to be intelligent about how we lay out our requirements as an industry. If we go out there and tell everybody that we need that 500 megawatts or that 200 megawatts, even that 100 megawatts, and we go out and insist that that's what we need before we start developing, you're going to be left behind because no grid is ready to take on that. So our ability to predict the requirements more closely, which means we need to talk to our customers a lot more closely, and our supply chain, because customers may want something our supply chain is not ready to deliver. So actually, that's the critical choke point.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. So I think this is what we need to deal with, and that's why the relevance of traditional colo players is still very, very real. Very, very real and very opportune. Please.
Yeah. No, maybe on your point on size, we're feeling this in Europe quite a bit, that the expectation is that data centers become better integrated into the municipalities and into the sort of environment around them. Partially because we call it a social license to operate. You need to be able to have a consensus that data centers are okay and that they are a contributor. And heat reuse, for example, is becoming almost a mandate in areas where we're operating. And there, typically, if you are closer to the energy source, you're not accessing gigawatts of power. You may be accessing 50 to 250 megawatts worth of power, where you can also give back the heat. And thus, these types of sizes become fully integrated into the local community. So we're seeing this as a sort of more regional players providing for this in tight harmony with the environment.
Yeah. Mayank, BDX serves a lot of markets. Anything you'd like to add regarding AI and what you're seeing with?
No, so actually, I concur with what Bruno said in terms of there's this equivalence of FOMO for every country to have the sovereign AI. And of course, all of the stress comes onto the infrastructure. But a couple of risks that are there. A is the regulation itself. Not too many countries, even those who have implemented sovereignty laws, understand how to actually implement the sovereignty laws. And you have country after country which has sovereignty laws in place, and they still don't understand that Google, in its publicly declared statement, says that their workloads follow the moon. So what that effectively turns out to be is that if data center operators go ahead and do take the speculative risk of creating capacities, would there ever actually be enough workload? The second sort of hurdle to creating sovereign AI, and just picking up on that, is that there is a lot of requirement for talent for each country to be able to create a sovereign AI. Else you just go and plonk yourself with one of the existing sort of AI cloud providers and just sort of be happy with whatever you have as sort of the top thin layer, which you think is sovereign AI. Sovereign AI, in my view, should mean the entire stack. Infra, chips, software, apps, power, of course. So that's sort of the things that we keep thinking through. But yeah, it's a good challenge to think through.
So all three of you actually touched on my next question. So we're doing well in terms of the rehearsing we did, right? So we talked about data sovereignty. So Bruno, I'm going to touch on you because you were the first to bring it up. So regulations around power availability, data sovereignty are shifting fast. Which of these forces do you think will have the biggest impact on traditional cloud and colo growth over the next couple of years?
I think both.
Yeah.
I think you have to deal with what's ahead of you. I think the society at large really didn't understand data centers because we were very secretive for a long time. I remember building some of these, and my customers told us that you cannot tell anybody where I'm located.
Or you can't brand yourself.
Yeah, you can't even put the data. Yes, you're right. You can't put your brand out there. You can't. And some of the government workloads that we handled earlier on, they refuse to allow us to do anything and even say that we are the provider. Now, that has been to our detriment because the society at large, my kids tell me that, you guys are polluters, you are screwing up the environment. Then you have to explain, right? Actually, if you think about it, in the last few years and since what we've been doing, we have been one of the most, active and responsible citizens of the community in building our data center capacity. We've been doing stuff that I think people would, the energy and power industry would never have thought of doing. And it's because of what we believe is our responsibility that we build technology for our community. And I like the recent announcement by Microsoft, the community first AI infrastructure. They're setting a new bar. Not here to advertise for them, but I think that's one of the challenges that we will be called to do by communities, giving back to the community in terms of not taking power away from them, but actually enhancing their infrastructure because of what we are called to do, which means that we are actually more than paying our fair share because we are upgrading that infrastructure to be ready for what's coming up. Everybody, the government wants the AI. They want all that. They want the ability for them to push through all of this, but it needs that infrastructure to support because that's the one that's lacking. And without the power, it can't happen. So the grids need to upgrade, and this is how we help them by giving back in the way that we build our infrastructure, using less water where we can, and bringing the recycling back to the community and the society. The power that Bjorn talked about, which is absolutely critical. How do you bring back heating to the communities in using the heat emissions that we have in our data centers? So all this is holistic approach, I think, is what we need to do as our community to bridge this gap between regulation and power as well as data sovereignty.
I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit because you're geographically located, obviously, in a unique place. We talked about clean energy where you are. Are you seen as the bad guy in the community, or is it much different? Or
I think that has improved quite a bit, but it is indeed a worry. So I'm actually the chair of the Icelandic Data Center Association, and I would say our top priority is to educate the public on what data centers are about and how they work with others, and it's the same in the Nordics. We are collaborating together to promote the industry and sort of paving the way for further projects. But I think that's also where we need to adapt our business into the future. I mean, if you think about it from a sizable campus, 500 megawatts, I mean, are you really going to build everything with dual diesel? Is that responsible, and does that make sense, sort of given sort of modern workloads and how you can distribute them and how you can do fallbacks across geographic regions to serve an end customer? So I think there will be some changes and potentially dramatic changes in terms of how you approach that into the future, simply to be able to work on this scale. Just the logistical nightmare of keeping a 500 megawatt campus running on diesel, it's tremendous.
Mayank, question to you. As data centers push toward high density deployments and technologies like liquid cooling, they're becoming more mainstream. How do you see power availability, renewable integration, and regional regulations influencing design decisions over the next 2 years?
A lot. So it's not just about the rack density, it's about the total power consumption itself. And enterprise and cloud, I think the view that we need to think about is that while it is enterprise, while it is cloud, back to the first comment that I made, the cost of doing the task using math has to keep coming down. What that means is that you need to have more and more efficient compute hardware, which is reducing the cost per task that you're doing. And that comes with higher power requirement inside of a rack, but that also comes with an overall higher power requirement, which, like Bruno said, is hard for the grids to keep up. And regulators in a lot of countries are still sort of trying to, we work with a lot of regulators just to sort of get the point across that we have to work together to create solutions which do not, which have a positive impact and do not get the grid to sort of, and to that extent, when we are working with the geography that we're in, we've been focused on creating behind-the-meter solutions. And our first behind-the-meter solution would be up and running this year. And we've worked so closely with the entire ecosystem that, to the point about being seen as heroes or villains, the regulator is thinking about getting that model to be as a standard for the country. So there's no stress on the grid. There's a lot of give back to the community. We've actually managed to get the costs to be lower. So all in, it's turned out to be a win-win for all stakeholders, customers, ourselves, the community, and of course the natural resources.
So we're running out of time, but I want to pose the very famous ending CEO vision questions, because all of you are chief executives within your organization. So this is where you bring out your crystal ball. And the question, looking towards 2027, we're already for next year in the future, what capabilities or even business model shifts do you think will set apart the operators who successfully bridge today's traditional environments with tomorrow's high-density needs? Mayank, Bruno, and then Bjorn.
Power has to sit, the power capability has to sit inside of the data center business. You can't have three disparate entities trying to solve for power for the data center guy to then take the solution and actually solve for the math. So the power capability inside of the data center operator is something that will help.
I will say more a case of not so much a prediction of what we do, but I think what I feel very excited about is that, it's something which I said 5 years ago on this similar forum here at PTC, was that I think we are in the most exciting phase of this business. I think all of you are somewhat either directly or indirectly or tangentially involved in this sector. It's the most exciting times, isn't it? It's really growing at a fantastic pace. Yeah. So, and I think we count ourselves lucky that we are in this sector and not in some other sector, right? I can name a few. But I think what's important for us is that all of us need to build the talent group that we have, extend that even further, because there's just not enough people building enough in every one of our geographies. That's the biggest issue we are all facing. In the infrastructure, even in your AI delivery, right? If that's not happening, there's no infrastructure that's needed to build, right? Let's be clear. So everywhere we go, I think that's going to be the big worry that I have about what's going to happen in the industry and how we're going to get ready for what's in front of us. And governments are aware of that. You want to be AI independent, but you don't have the AI data scientists and developers, etc. And in the infrastructure side, we are struggling. Let's admit it to ourselves. We need to build more capability and competency in our industry and reach out and expand that. And otherwise, we will be behind to meet the demand.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. No, well said. I mean, we are in an extremely exciting and dynamic industry, and I think that means that we need to be adaptable. I think that's one of the keys as providers, being adaptable. And to your point on talent, I mean, operationally things are getting bigger, scale bigger, more at stake. We just need to be good there and attract talent and also pay the way for that as an industry.
Thank you. Well, please join me in thanking our terrific speakers today on the first Alaka'i session ever at PTC. And we'll continue the session in the next half hour. So thank you.
Thank you.